Most people believe leadership is born from charisma, morality, or vision. They are wrong. What truly separates a leader from a follower is a single, ruthless mindset, one that strips away illusions and reveals who is meant to command and who is destined to obey. In the quiet corridors of power, there is no room for sentiment. The world bows not to those who dream, but to those who act with precision and cold understanding. A true leader does not seek approval. He shapes perception, bends loyalty, and turns chaos into order. A follower is enslaved by conscience, by comfort, by the need to be liked. A leader, however, sees the world as a chessboard. Each move calculated, each alliance temporary, each emotion a tool. The difference is not of position, but of mindset. And once you learn to think as the ruler, even the mighty begin to yield. Power is not found in the comfort of agreement. It is born in the discomfort of control. You have been told that leadership is about harmony, about being liked, about building bridges. But bridges, my friend, are only useful when you control who crosses them. A leader does not seek consensus. He creates alignment through authority. Agreement is fragile. It depends on emotion. Control is permanent. It depends on structure. Look through history. Caesar did not win the loyalty of Rome by asking for permission. He took command, defied the Senate, and made the Republic kneel beneath his will. Those who agreed with him followed out of admiration. Those who didn't followed out of fear. Either way, they followed. You see, the follower's instinct is to seek validation. The leader's instinct is to command the outcome. When you speak, do you measure your words to be understood or to be obeyed? When you act, do you wait for others to approve or to react? The difference between those two questions defines your place in the hierarchy. Human beings crave unity, but they obey clarity. The one who decides with certainty will always dominate those who hesitate in search of fairness. Think of the modern workplace. A manager who pleases everyone soon loses authority. The one who enforces direction, even at the cost of temporary discomfort, creates order. Why? Because followers may resist the leader they fear, but they despise the one they pity. Control does not always mean tyranny. It means predictability. To lead is to shape the mental environment of others so that their thoughts move in the direction you desire, without them realizing it. When a ruler commands obedience, he does not shout. He sets the tone. He engineers the incentives. A silent expectation can be more powerful than 1,000 demands. Ask yourself when you enter a room, do others adjust their energy to yours, or do you adjust to theirs? The one who sets the emotional temperature controls the climate of power. Leaders understand this subtle art. They know that power is not seized once. It is maintained daily through control of narrative, rhythm, and perception. Even in conversation, the same law applies. The one who listens strategically, who waits in silence while others reveal their intentions, controls the field. A follower fills the air with justification. A leader uses silence as a mirror, forcing others to confront themselves. Control begins not with domination, but with composure. The moment you show the need to be agreed with, you lose leverage, because the need for agreement exposes insecurity, and insecurity invites manipulation. The cunning understand that disagreement is not an obstacle, it's a weapon. When others oppose you, they reveal their priorities. They expose their pressure points. To control others, you must first learn where their fear begins. History rewards the one who commands through clarity, not the one who negotiates through weakness. Alexander did not consult his men before crossing into Persia. He declared his intention and demanded loyalty. The uncertain were left behind, and history forgot them. Yet control requires balance. Too much force breeds rebellion. Too much softness breeds chaos. The art lies in measured dominance, firm enough to guide, subtle enough to disguise. Consider the leader who smiles while giving orders. The follower sees kindness. The strategist sees manipulation wrapped in charm. It is not what is said. It is what is accepted without question that defines control. In psychological terms, followers operate on emotional resonance. They mirror, they seek belonging, they conform. Leaders, however, operate on cognitive detachment. They design belonging. They create the illusion of choice. Even your relationships reveal this truth. The person who can walk away holds the power. Dependence is the currency of the weak. Detachment is the weapon of the strong. The world is not moved by those who wait to be understood. It is shaped by those who impose their understanding. So ask yourself, do you crave to be agreed with, or to be remembered? Because the one who controls does not need agreement. He engineers it. When people nod at your words, it is not because they truly agree. It is because you have positioned yourself as the inevitable conclusion of their thoughts. That, my friend, is the highest form of control. To make obedience feel voluntary. To lead, you must step beyond the need to be loved, for those who demand affection are chained by it. The leader's mind sees beyond comfort, beyond applause, beyond approval. He understands that true power is not in the agreement of others, but in their silent submission. And those who master this mindset begin to rule even without a throne. But there is another truth, darker still. Control is nothing without distance. To hold command, you must first learn the art of emotional detachment. That is where the next lesson begins. Detachment is not weakness. It is the highest form of control. Most people confuse feeling deeply with being alive. But emotion, when ungoverned, is the leash that binds the mind to others' will. A leader learns early if you can be provoked, you can be controlled. Followers live in reaction. Leaders live in restraint. They observe, calculate, and strike only when the outcome is certain. Ask yourself, how often have you spoken too soon, acted too fast, defended yourself out of pride rather than strategy? Each time, you traded power for relief. And relief, though sweet in the moment, is the drug that destroys rulers. Detachment is not the absence of emotion. It is the mastery of it. It means knowing when to feel, and when to pretend to feel. Look at history's most enduring leaders. Julius Caesar wept in public when necessary, not because his heart demanded it, but because his image required it. He understood that emotion, when performed with precision, commands more loyalty than truth ever could. Detachment gives you that precision. It turns passion into an instrument rather than a master. Consider the difference between the storm and the mountain. The storm is loud, violent, emotional. It demands attention but fades quickly. The mountain says nothing, yet all must move around it. The detached mind is the mountain. The reactive man is the storm. When you are detached, you see others clearly, because their emotions no longer infect your judgment. You read anger as insecurity. You read kindness as calculation. You read love as leverage. And in that clarity lies absolute power. People reveal themselves most when they believe you are invested in them. Detach, and they will expose their true motives while trying to read yours. The manipulator's greatest advantage is not deceit. It is patience. In the courts of power, those who react are pawns. Those who wait are kings. Even in daily life, you can see this law at work. A colleague provokes you with a subtle insult. If you respond with emotion, you validate their control. But if you pause, smile, observe, remain unmoved, you plant doubt in their mind. They begin to question themselves. They begin to fear you. Detachment creates psychological distance, and distance is dominance. It forces others to fill the silence with their own anxiety. In human psychology, this is known as emotional asymmetry. The less emotionally invested person always controls the dynamic. In arguments, relationships, negotiations, the side that feels less wins more. Yet most people cannot bear the void of stillness. They crave reaction like addicts crave their drug. They fear silence because silence reveals truth. The strong, however, find comfort in the void. They learn to let others burn their energy while they conserve their own. They allow others to expose their thoughts while guarding theirs. Imagine a chessboard. Every piece moves in haste, except one. The player who waits, who studies the rhythm of chaos, controls the game without touching a piece. That is detachment, the invisible command. When you master it, even your enemies become your informants. They reveal intentions, miscalculate your indifference, and exhaust themselves trying to break what does not bend. There is a reason spies, strategists, and rulers cultivate calm. Emotion makes you predictable. Detachment makes you unreadable, and in the realm of power, the unreadable are untouchable. But beware, detachment is not apathy. Apathetic men drift. Detached men direct. Apathetic men feel nothing. Detached men choose what to feel. The true art lies in feigned vulnerability. Sometimes you must pretend to care, to express warmth, to create the illusion of intimacy, only to withdraw it later and let the absence haunt them. This is psychological control at its finest, conditioning through emotional scarcity. When others depend on your approval, your silence becomes punishment. Your attention becomes reward. You control them without raising your voice. So, the next time you are provoked, remember silence is not surrender, it is surveillance. Each reaction you deny yourself adds to your strength. Each emotion you conceal becomes a weapon for later. In this world, composure is more terrifying than aggression. Because composure signals calculation, and calculation signals inevitability. Ask yourself, who truly holds power in any confrontation? The one who speaks in rage, or the one who listens in stillness? The answer has not changed for centuries. To rule minds, you must first rule your own. To lead armies, you must first conquer impulse. Only then can you bend chaos to your command. Detachment, then, is not retreat. It is positioning. The battlefield of the mind belongs to the calmest general. Remember, this emotion is the weapon of the weak, restraint the armor of the strong. And once you learn to feel without revealing, to care without needing, to decide without hesitation, you will become untouchable. But what happens when detachment turns into manipulation? When calm becomes a mask for control? That is where the next lesson begins. Morality. The sweetest illusion ever sold to the masses. It dresses weakness in virtue, obedience in goodness, and fear in compassion. The leader, however, learns early that morality is not truth, it is strategy. You see, the world does not reward the pure. It rewards those who understand that virtue, like gold, shines brightest when displayed, not when believed. To command others, you must appear moral. To truly rule them, you must be free from the need to be moral. History remembers the virtuous, but it obeys the cunning. Kings, priests, and politicians have all played the same game, using morality to control the hearts of others while keeping their own untouched. Consider the church in the age of empires. It preached humility, charity, and obedience. Yet behind cathedral walls, it amassed wealth, influence, and dominion over kings. Its leaders understood a simple law: the moral code of others is the leash by which you guide them. Morality is useful, not sacred. It keeps the herd predictable. It makes rebellion feel like sin. Ask yourself, how many decisions in your life were made not from logic, but from guilt? How often have you avoided opportunity because you feared looking selfish, ruthless, or cold? That hesitation, that inner conflict, is the chain forged by moral conditioning. The leader knows how to break it, or better yet, to use it. He plays the moral expectations of others like strings on a harp, composing an illusion of righteousness while pursuing his goal with silent precision. Do not mistake this for cruelty. It is clarity. He understands that the masses need moral stories to stay united, but power requires flexibility to survive. Imagine two rulers. One is obsessed with being just, the other with being effective. When chaos rises, which one survives? The first clings to ideals while the second shapes them to fit necessity. The moral man becomes a martyr, the cunning one becomes a legend. Even in modern times, this law has not changed. Leaders speak of fairness, equality, and justice while making ruthless decisions behind closed doors. They smile as they sanction wars. They shake hands while plotting betrayals. And the people, comforted by moral words, continue to obey. Because morality soothes the conscience, not the condition. The crowd does not seek truth, it seeks comfort. You, however, must seek power. To do that, you must learn to separate the appearance of morality from the burden of it. Show virtue in public. Use it to gain trust, admiration, or loyalty. But when necessity calls, Act without hesitation. Remember, the fox survives not because it is kind, but because it appears harmless. This is the true meaning of controlled morality, to wear virtue as a costume, not a cage. When you pretend to be moral, people lower their guard. They project their goodness onto you. They believe your intentions mirror their own, and in that blind trust, they give you access to information, to loyalty, to obedience. Psychologically, this is called moral mirroring. The human mind assumes that those who reflect its values are safe. Exploit this instinct, and you can enter any fortress without resistance. But beware, overuse of this mask breeds suspicion. The skilled leader knows when to reveal a touch of darkness, a flash of realism, to remind others that his mercy is choice, not weakness. A balance must be kept. Too moral, and you seem naive. Too ruthless, and you inspire revolt. The art lies in walking the narrow path between fear and faith. Even in relationships, this law applies. The one who always plays the saint becomes predictable, and therefore controllable. The one who shifts between warmth and detachment commands fascination. Uncertainty breeds dependence. Dependence breeds power. Every empire, every corporation, every movement that endured learned to cloak necessity in virtue, to wage war in the name of peace, to manipulate under the banner of morality, to conquer with clean hands. So when you hear someone speak of justice, ask yourself, who benefits from this virtue? When someone urges you to do the right thing, ask whose definition of right is this. Because morality is not universal, it is engineered. And the engineer of morality commands the minds of men far more effectively than the enforcer of law. This is why true leaders never debate what is moral. They decide what will appear moral. And through that appearance, they rule without resistance. The follower serves morality. The leader uses it. But to wield this power fully, you must understand its twin, illusion. For morality without illusion collapses, and illusion without morality exposes itself. And that leads us into the next lesson. Truth is fragile. Perception is eternal. Men do not follow reality. They follow what appears to be reality. A wise leader understands this law and bends it to his will. You see, the world is not ruled by facts. It is ruled by stories, carefully crafted illusions that make those facts irrelevant. A follower seeks truth, hoping it will protect him. A leader creates truth, shaping it into a weapon. Ask yourself, when people look at you, do they see who you are or who you have taught them to believe you are? Because perception, once forged, becomes a prison in which others willingly lock themselves. Every ruler, from emperors to CEOs, has lived behind a mask of illusion. Julius Caesar projected mercy when it suited him, yet slaughtered thousands when necessity demanded it. Alexander called himself a son of the gods. Not because he believed it, but because others did. They ruled not through armies alone, but through perception, the invisible throne that no sword can cut. Understand this: people do not need truth to obey. They need certainty, and certainty, my friend, is a form of theater. In the court of public opinion, reality is not decided by what is, but by what is believed to be. The crowd believes what gives them comfort, what confirms their bias, what flatters their hopes, and the leader, he gives them exactly that while pursuing what serves him. Perception is not deception, it is direction. You are not lying when you guide attention. You are simply sculpting reality into a form that serves your will. Consider how modern power functions. Politicians speak of freedom while drafting laws of control. Corporations speak of ethics while feeding on exploitation. Influencers preach authenticity while curating every pixel of their persona. Yet, the masses adore them, defend them, follow them. Why? Because perception has replaced truth as the currency of trust. Even in your own life, this law rules you. When you enter a room, people decide your value in seconds. by tone, by posture, by expression. You can be intelligent, capable, and honest. But if your presence does not signal those traits, no one will care. This is the cruel beauty of perception. You can control how others see you long before they ever know who you are. The leader, then, becomes an architect of appearances. He understands that confidence, not competence, commands first. That mystery, not transparency, holds power. That control of image leads to control of influence. In psychology, this is called impression management. It is the silent manipulation of how others interpret your behavior. But the true master uses it not to impress, but to dominate. He knows when to be seen and when to disappear, when to speak and when to let rumor build his legend. He feeds the perception of power until it becomes self-fulfilling. People submit not because they are forced, but because they believe he cannot be challenged. This is how power perpetuates itself, through belief disguised as truth. But here lies the danger. If you fail to manage perception, others will do it for you. They will define your narrative, twist your image, and steal your authority before you even notice. Silence does not protect the unprepared, it erases them. So ask yourself, who controls the story others tell about you? Do you leave it to chance, or do you script it with precision? Perception management is not vanity, it is survival. In the age of information, reputation is your armor, and illusion is your sword. Even relationships follow this logic. People love who they perceive you to be, not who you actually are. Charm, mystery, confidence. These are the illusions that sustain devotion. Reveal too much truth, and the magic dies. That is why leaders reveal fragments, never the whole. They give the crowd symbols to worship, not truths to dissect, because truth invites debate. But perception inspires belief. And belief, once established, is almost impossible to kill. Think of great movements, religions, revolutions, all built on perception stronger than reality. The image of righteousness, the illusion of destiny. These are tools of control far older than any empire. To master perception is to master minds. To lose it is to lose power, no matter how skilled, rich, or intelligent you are. So craft your image with care. Let your words echo intention. Let your silences speak louder than your explanations. Let every action reinforce the illusion that you cannot be replaced. Because perception, once shaped, becomes truth in the eyes of those who follow. And in a world where belief rules over reality, that illusion is power. But perception alone is fragile. Without action to sustain it, even the most brilliant illusion fades. And so, to hold power, you must bear its weight, the burden of consequence, the courage to act without flinching. That is where the next lesson begins. Power is not inherited. It is accepted. And with acceptance comes the heaviest burden a human mind can bear, responsibility. This is the final test that separates leaders from the rest. Followers want authority until they taste its consequence. They crave control but tremble before its cost. A true leader understands that to command others, he must first master his response to chaos. When failure comes, he does not hide behind excuses. When success arrives, he does not drown in pride. He carries both as calmly as a soldier carries his sword, an extension of his will, neither a trophy nor a curse. Responsibility is not about blame. It is about ownership. And ownership, in the realm of power, is absolute. Think of the rulers of history who rose not by fortune, but by accepting what others feared to touch. When Rome burned, Nero looked for someone to accuse. When the Republic fell, Caesar simply took command. That is the difference. The weak search for someone to fault. The strong say, "It was mine to fix." Ask yourself, when things collapse around you, do you look outward or inward? Because the instinct to deflect is the first sign of weakness, and those who fear accountability will never rule anything beyond their own excuses. Responsibility is terrifying because it strips you of illusion. It forces you to see that outcomes, good or bad, are shaped by your choices. It kills the comfort of victimhood. And in its place, it plants the seed of sovereignty. To bear responsibility is to claim authorship over your reality. Every success is your design. Every mistake, your lesson. This mindset makes you dangerous because it frees you from dependence on others' approval. Followers measure their worth by praise. Leaders measure it by outcome. That is why the powerful do not seek fairness. They seek control. Because once you take responsibility, fairness becomes irrelevant. There is only what is and what you must do to shape it. In modern life, this truth is buried under the noise of entitlement. People cry out for justice, yet flee from accountability. They demand freedom without accepting the weight it brings. But freedom without responsibility is not power. It is chaos disguised as liberty. The leader understands this paradox and uses it to rule. He takes ownership of results others fear to claim. He becomes the point of stability amid disorder. And people, desperate for certainty, submit to his authority willingly. Psychologically, this works because human beings crave guidance. They do not want to think, they want to trust. And trust is given not to those who are always right, but to those who stand firm when others collapse. So when the crowd panics, the leader does not. He absorbs the tension. He becomes the calm center of the storm, and by doing so, he earns what manipulation alone could never buy, legitimacy. To lead, then, is to assume the sins of the system you control. You must be willing to take blame for decisions you did not make, and punishment for actions you did not commit. Because the perception of control demands the illusion of responsibility. You cannot separate them without breaking both. Look at history's giants. Napoleon accepted failure on the battlefield as his own, even when betrayed by circumstance. Churchill bore the weight of war, knowing half his nation despised him. They were not flawless, but they were immovable. And that immovability is what people mistake for greatness. Responsibility grants that aura. It projects certainty even in uncertainty. It says, I am the axis around which this chaos turns. But there is a darker side to it. The more responsibility you claim, the more alone you become. Power isolates. It demands secrecy, endurance, and the ability to act without comfort or counsel. Those who seek sympathy cannot bear it. So you must decide, do you want to be understood or obeyed? Because leadership rarely offers both. The moment you accept responsibility, you become a vessel for others' failures, fears, and expectations. They will resent you for their own mistakes. They will worship you when you succeed and curse you when you fall. Yet both reactions feed the same truth. They acknowledge your control. To carry this burden without breaking requires a ruthless kind of serenity. You must view every outcome as the consequence of your own hand, even when fate conspires against you. You must wear guilt as armor and pressure as fuel. For the leader, responsibility is not punishment, it is power crystallized. Every choice defines him. Every failure refines him. Every victory, fleeting as it is, reminds him that authority is not given. It is earned daily. So ask yourself, can you bear the loneliness of command? Can you take the weight of others' chaos and call it your own? If not, you are not yet ready for power, because to rule is to stand where blame and glory meet, and claim them both without flinching. And once you learn that, you are ready for the final secret. The cost of holding power once you have it. Control is never taken by force. It is surrendered by choice. The greatest manipulation is not to dominate others, but to make them believe they act of their own will. A true strategist does not shout commands. He whispers possibilities. He does not argue for power. He becomes the environment where others seek approval. Remember this: the mind that understands perception emotion and silence controls without chains. Those who see the game too late call it fate. Those who see it early rule it. So, ask yourself, are you being led, or are you leading quietly from behind the mask? Do you create belief, or merely serve it? If this lesson has sharpened your perception, leave your thoughts below. Your insight reveals which side of power you stand on. Subscribe, if you dare, to learn the next layer of psychological warfare, and share this with those still blind to control. For influence unshared is influence wasted. Remember, in this world, power is perception, and perception is everything.